It's been a very, very interesting week for Issa Pantami and, of course, for Nigerians who have been following up on these conversations. But I want your quick thoughts on the latest revelations, the meeting in 2010, the conclusions that, were met at that meeting. What do all these things mean to you, and how damaging, might this be?
Well, as a professional, as well as a seasoned public affairs analyst, I don't see it as a big deal because the issues are issues that happen before his appointment as a minister of Federal Republic of Nigeria. And in Nigeria, for example, we have we are a secular state with two leading religions, Christianity and Islam. As at the time the Honorable Minister of Communication made the statement, he wasn't appointed minister. He was just a cleric of the Islamic faith. And even in Bible and Quran, when somebody makes mistakes and admits and asks for forgiveness, the two holy books, Quran and the Bible respectively, gives that opportunity in some chapters and verses where such persons are forgiven for some of their utterances or misdeeds. And the Minister of Communication did come out to say, yes, I made such utterances in the past, but I am very sorry. At the time, the former U.S. Democrat President Bill Clinton had an affection in the White House with White House intern Monica Lewinsky against opposition backdrop and called for his resignation. The moment he apologized, American as civilized as their democracy was, forgave him and allowed him to continue his tenure.
Apologize. I just want to quickly step in here and be sure that we're on the same page. The conversation we're having this morning is not on the videos and the audio clips that were released a couple of days ago. We're talking of a new release document of a meeting that was held in 2010 by the GNI. It was chaired by Issa Pantami. And it speaks of jihad, it speaks of chasing away and, of course, violence against people of a different faith. It speaks also on the Kaduna State governor back then, Yakowa. It speaks on so much. Are you saying that these things also should be seen as, Pantami's past and should be ignored and forgiven?
Absolutely, absolutely. You see, there is no difference between the statement he made as a member of JNI and other groups and the other accusation. All I'm trying to say is now he's a minister. These statements were made before he was appointed a minister. And why did it take so long for these statements to be brought to public domain? Because during the time he was to be appointed a minister, they went through a thorough Senate ministerial screening. This were the time that these critics and people that are bringing these petitions to the forefront ought to have taken such petitions before the Senate leadership, not to allow the screening of Pantami to go on then as a ministerial nominee, not now. So no matter what water and how tangible these petitions they are bringing now, no reasonable and sensible person is going to take them serious because we are attaching it to fanatism, we are attaching it to politics of denting of his image, especially as he has taken certain steps to ensure that everybody enrolled for the national identification number, which is trying to expose certain people that have been supportive of terrorism, supportive of armed banditry and also others. So I feel certain people are not with the initiative of the Honorable Minister to say that this NIN registration must be complied with and certain criteria must be met, except all that are made, nobody is going to be able to continue to make calls
Mr. Dantata.
Any of the network provider.
Mr. Dantata, I think we get your point there.
Okay, so just to make sure we're all on the same page, I am going to be reading out a few statements, from these documents that we're talking about. So on the 13th of July 2010, on the 13th of July 2010, there was a meeting by the GNI, the Janatu Islam group based in Kaduna, with 4 states consisting of Plateau, Bauchi, Kaduna, and Niger State. This held in Bauchi State, and this meeting was chaired by Malam Ali Ibrahim Pantami. Then he was a cleric. Now, in this meeting, They talked about the liberation of Kaduna State. They said they were going to re-strategize towards the full implementation of jihad in Jos and Plateau State and Kaduna. And that, they were going to receive or treat reports that Christians were persecuting Muslims in northern Nigeria. At the end of the day, they reached the following conclusion. They said, 1, 90 days from now, Muslims must ensure that peace has escaped Kaduna State. They say Muslims must hunt all Christians, especially those in the cities. Number 3, they say we must either use the security or other means to eliminate the governor, and we're talking about the then governor, Patrick Yakowa. We must use all security means to eliminate Governor Yakowa, his family, and all those that they perceive as supporting him. Number 4, they say we must face and frustrate all Christians in Kaduna who are civil servants and traders. Number 5, they say attacks must continue to be launched against Christians' predominated areas as signals before jihad. They say they shall use their men who are in the military and help bring arms and ammunition into Kaduna. Number 7, use all resources possible to control the security before and after jihad, and that this is highly confidential and must be related to all Muslims who wish to support this movement. David Duday, do you see these points as not a big deal and to be only taken serious by unreasonable people, like Mr. Dantata has said?
I'm going to try to moderate my answer as best as I can because I don't want to get you guys taken off the air. So bear with me here. But I couldn't believe what I was hearing just now. I'm not sure Mr. Dantata actually knows what job he's doing. If he thinks that was a defense of Issa Pantami, I couldn't quite believe what I was hearing. He said those things that were written down in the communique were not a big deal. I don't think he understands the gravity of what he just said. He essentially just admitted to a serving minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria plotting murder, plotting a genocide in 2010. And he has come here to say it was not a big deal because it happened before he was a minister. What? Are you serious right now? How does that make... Listen, I currently am in possession of a 1,000-page report about violence in the middle belt of Nigeria. This report was presented to the United States government in 2020. It was cited by Mike Pence, the former vice president of the US. And I'm just going to show you a few brief excerpts from that report. I'm holding it. It's a very lengthy report, 1,000 pages, but I'm just going to turn a few pages and show you something, right? Now, look at these pages, right? Can you see these names?
Yes.
These names. Every single name here is a dead person. Every single name here is a Christian who was killed in the Middle Belt since 2010. I'm going to keep turning and turning. Every single name you see here is a dead person. I can keep turning for another 50 pages. It goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on like this. Every single name you see here is a dead person.
So, David, can you tell us how they died? Do you have that information?
What was Mr. Dantata on about when he says it was not a big deal? Does he understand that meeting essentially condemned all those people I just showed you to death? Does he understand that there were real-world consequences of that meeting? Does he understand that he just admitted to a serving federal government minister plotting a religious genocide? Does he understand the gravity of what he just admitted on national television? Is he sure he knows what he's saying, or does he want to recant everything he just said?
Okay, so, well, David, let's bring back Mr. Dantata. David, kindly just hold on. We'll get back to you. Mr. Dantata, I'm sure you've been following. I want your response to that.
Well, you see what my friend is saying over there is just like trying to incite the Nigerian society. Because even him as a journalist, his role is to serve as watchdog and mouthpiece of the society to know what to say, when and how. At this time that the nation is facing problem of terrorism, armed banditry, kidnap-related crises, and other threats to our security.
Mr. Dantata,
We
this
are
is what I
supposed to
I want you to address. Do you agree that your statements earlier have basically meant that you agree that that meeting held, those agreements were had in that meeting, and the minister chaired that meeting, and of course was a part of that meeting, and those agreements were had? Are you agreeing that all of those things happened, but you're simply saying, kindly hold on, sir. Are you agreeing that those things happened and those, the conclusions were reached at that meeting, but the challenge here is that it was all done before he became minister?
Let me ask my co-guest certain questions. He said it held. Can he produce audio evidence or television evidence? He affirmed that it was said to be kept confidential. By who? You should know that the Nigerian state has security apparatus running from Department of State Services that have the highest intelligence gathering mechanism, also have the police, force criminal intelligence department, as well as in every state command, you have what you call criminal investigation department. In a country like Nigeria, where all the intelligence apparatus of the security is working, I don't think if that kind of meeting held that is genocidal by Jamaatul Nasr Islam in Kaduna at that time, I don't think somebody like Pantami, even though he was not minister, then would have been left without not being arrested. So I think it is the antics of detractors. They are being economical with the truth. And if they have any proof, like I challenge them, audio or television, let them bring it to the forefront. And again, I want to re-emphasize that there is what you call Department of State Services screening of any Nigerian citizen that is designated for either ambassadorial, ministerial, or headship of any of the sensitive federal agencies in Nigeria. What happens to the security checking, background checking, and other reports? As well, again, what stopped these same opponents that are bringing this issue to the forefront now to have taken it to the Senate Screening Committee? No matter how beautiful these criticisms they are raising they are no longer holding water. That is even to tell you that there is no audio or television evidence any of these people raising these issues now can bring. And for my friend to tell me that I am trying to agree, audio. It's not true, because even if you take issues related to this to the International Criminal Court at The Hague, they will first of all ask you of the audio or television evidences. Most of the high-profile personalities, from Charles Taylor to Gbagbo and other international suspects that have been taken to International Criminal Court, there were audio and television evidences that they committed against humanity and were involved in certain things that made people to lose their lives. So I feel this issue of the communication minister is being politicized. And Nigerians are now sensible to reason from fiction to reality.
Absolutely. We're going to go back to David. I think Aneta wants to bring him in here.
Okay.
But just quickly note that there was audio, in the past, and that audio clip, that was released, of the minister speaking, is the same audio clip that there's, that people are saying that should be forgiven. So I don't think it's a lack of audio or video that should be our challenge here. But
okay, David, it's great that when you talk about journalism, we're dealing with hard facts and evidence. So far, we've heard an audio clip, right? I wonder if Mr. Dantata has seen that or heard that, because we all heard that clip, and in it, we heard how Pantami basically was, advocating for the defense of the lives of terrorists, saying they shouldn't be killed. Even though he did raise some points that, lots of people agree with, saying they should have been tried rather than just been shot dead just like that. That's a valid point, protection of human rights, right? But also, we heard him talk about, how, Osama bin Laden was a better Muslim than he is, and how he professed support for groups like the Taliban and other, terrorist groups. So bringing in your investigation, because I'm aware that you've dug into Pantami and all the allegations about him. What did your investigations reveal when you looked into Pantami's past? And really, for people who have been saying his past has no bearing on his present and future, what do you say to that?
I just want to quickly respond to what Salihu said, because again, it strikes me that this person you brought on the show doesn't really have a solid grasp of the facts at all. The meeting in question isn't some conspiracy theory somewhere. It was actually in the news. It was recorded. You can Google it. It was on Vanguard News. It was on PM News. It was on Daily Sun. It was all over the media. It actually happened. What has changed now is that the communique that came out of that meeting has become public knowledge now. But that meeting actually happened. It was actually in the news. So I don't know what he's talking about when he says, where is the evidence? It's on the record that that meeting happened. And then when he says, that the DSS and the Senate screen ministerial candidates, well, again, obviously he has not been following the news, because if he had been following the news, as at yesterday, if the immediate past director of DSS,
Dennis Amakri,
spoke to Punch newspaper, and he said that the DSS wrote a dossier on Issa Pantami recommending that the president should not hire him because of his past. And the president ignored the DSS and chose to hire him anyway, right? And it also emerged yesterday that at the Senate hearing where Pantami was confirmed, the hearing lasted for only 11 minutes, and there was no question that was entertained about his past. So again, he's being either he has no idea what he's talking about, or he's being very economical with the truth. When he says that Pantami was cleared by the DSS, that is absolutely false. He was not cleared by the DSS. DSS recommended that he should not be hired. And President Buhari, for reasons best known to him, chose to hire him anyway. And then the Senate hearing was a mockery. It lasted for just 11 minutes. Now, it's important to separate issues here when you're talking, going back to your question. The audio clips in question are a separate issue to the JNI statement, which was released yesterday. Those audio clips dating back to the early to mid noughties depict Pantami at his peak as a cleric in Bauchi State, where he had a reign of terror at ATBU, basically advocating for Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. Right now, the details of that speech have actually been in the public domain since 2019, when a professor of contemporary Islamic studies, Dr. Andrea Brigaglia, who used to be at the University of Cape Town Center for Contemporary Islam and is now at the University of Naples in Italy, published a research paper called Debating Boko Haram. And in that paper, he repeatedly made reference to Imam Isa Ali Ibrahim Pantami and his ideological dispute with Mohammed Yusuf. In that paper, he did a translation of the speech in question, which was called Suwaye Yan Taliban, which means who is the Taliban. Now, it has been in the public domain, but perhaps it didn't make the news because there wasn't an audio file to support this thing yet. A few weeks ago, the audio files showed up on the internet. I'm not quite sure how it showed up on a Nigerian Muslim community website, but it showed up, and an anonymous source hinted me as to its existence. And that was where my curiosity was piqued, because then I was able to actually confirm that this speech actually happened. This is the audio. This is Pantami's voice. I actually used voice analysis software, and eventually Pantami himself confirmed that he did say those things. This is Pantami's voice. This is him saying these things. So after I did the first article, and then Pantami tried very disingenuously to infer that perhaps Dr. Brigaglia's translation was wrong, perhaps he doesn't understand Hausa properly, perhaps he has something against him. Then I had a native Hausa speaker, born and raised in Kaduna, to actually translate the video. And then I did the second article, and if you Google, it's on Newswire NGR. It's right there, where I extracted the audios from that video clip, and I very carefully used the translations to subtitle the videos. All these things are in the public domain. So this is not a conversation about, there's lack of evidence or a supposition. There's no supposition here, right? I have done my job, and I am very good at my job, right? So we're no longer having a conversation about whether this happened or whether Issa Pantami is an extremist. It's happened, and he is an extremist. So the conversation we should be having now is, why is he still in office? He shouldn't be in office. The president should have fired him last week.
David,
why is he still in office?
David, that's a whole new conversation, and when we bring in the conversation on the reaction of the Nigerian government, hopefully we can bring that up before we end the program. But I want you to, in a minute, possible, please share with us, if it is necessary and if there is any way to link the minutes of that meeting with what has played out security-wise in Nigeria in the last 10 years.
Well, absolutely, because as I showed you and by the way, over the next few hours, I'm going to be tweeting some excerpts from that report, because even I've been sitting on it for close to a year now, but I think it's time for these things to get into the public domain. There has been an actual genocide which has been perpetrated in the Middle Belt especially over the past 6 years, right? And our challenge has been to prove that this is not just some unfortunate confluence of events, that this is actually planned and premeditated, right? Because that's one of the key ways to proving that a genocide has happened. You have to prove that it isn't just a bunch of people who died unfortunately, that people actually planned and premeditated this. This communique has proven, without a shadow of doubt, that what we have seen, particularly in the Middle Belt, in places like Plateau and Benue, over the past 6 years, is absolutely premeditated. It was planned, and that the violence, apart from being ethnic and being economic, is also religious.
Okay. So, David, I want you to just kindly hold your thoughts there. Let's bring in Mr. Dantata. Mr. Dantata, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm right with you. Fly on.
So with all the controversy we've seen in the past week, especially with this recently released documents, what do you say to calls for Pantami to resign?
Well, I think that call should be ignored. It's callous and it's unpatriotic to nation building. Because so far, among the ministers that the president has, President Muhammadu Buhari, Pantami is having the zeal and desire to do certain things that other of his predecessors did not do in the communication industry. Like I said earlier, the reasons for the onslaught against him, for the attack against him, are not far-fetched. Simply because of this national identification number that he has made a compulsion. Therefore, certain people that are disgruntled, undesirable, and unpatriotic to nation building must do anything to bring him down. Already, the speaker has already done something in the lower chamber by overruling Honorable Elumelu as regarding that. And even, I believe, the upper chamber too will not let it have a light of the day. Competence exceeds mediocrity. Competence exceeds self-centered interest. It exceeds any other antics of people who do not want this administration to succeed.
Okay.
And like my co-guest said, that the former DG of the Department of State Services had earlier told the president, what stopped that Director General, if he was that patriotic at that time, to bring it to some media outfits and let it become a public document? Why now? There are certain people that are sponsoring certain people to bring Pantami down, and we, as patriotic Nigerians, we never allow that.
Just one question before you go. Are you trying to say that you believe, in all honesty, that Pantami is a totally different person from who he was many years ago?
Absolutely. You see, absolutely. In the two religions we have, Islam and Christianity, tell me the cleric that either in mosque or church that doesn't preach against certain things. You know, we have known how some of our religious leaders have become. So
it's extremism we're talking about here, Salihu, Dantata.
As a minister.